a common daily activity leading to higher rates of dementia, new results in lowering harmful greenhouse gas emissions, and a rare advance in the teaching of LGBTQ history, plus a look at supervolcanoes in the United States. I'm Martin Rather. This is the Underreported. Yellowstone National Park. The first national park established in the United States at its creation in 1872, it attracts millions of visitors annually to witness the geyser Old Faithful, which erupts every 44 to 125 minutes. Yellowstone is also the location of the largest supervolcano on the continent, the Yellowstone caldera, which is classified as an active volcano that will inevitably erupt. The question remains, when? A 2017 NBC News article detailed what could happen if Yellowstone erupted. Quote, "In a Yellowstone supereruption, everything within 60 miles could be incinerated. Wyoming and surrounding states could be blanketed with 3 feet of volcanic ash, and some ash would likely spread over most of North America. The dust and gases released by the eruption would blot out enough sunlight to wipe out crops and plunge the world into a volcanic winter that could last for a decade or more. The ensuing famine could kill untold millions." End quote. A new study aspires to aid volcanologists in determining when this eruption is most likely to occur. The study, from Geophysical Research Letters, effectively models the movement of magma in order to provide a historical timeline of changes beneath the Earth's surface. If expanded upon, it has the potential to predict whether the supervolcano is likely to erupt or nearing the end of its cycle and entering a less active phase. However, there is a potential way to eliminate any chance at a supervolcanic eruption. That same NBC article details a way to lower the risk by drilling into rock near the magma chamber in Yellowstone, pumping water into the hot rock, and then using that water to drive turbines to generate electric power while also pumping the now cooler water back underground, reducing the movement generated by heat, which could lead to the eruption. This option, according to NASA, would cost $3.46 billion, but also generate inexpensive electric power. Now, with this new study offering potential predictability, talks are renewing around this plan. As is all too often the case for environmental issues, the question remains as to whether or not we want to invest now or pay more later. And on to our national correspondents. Olivia Leveda of California discusses the harm caused by one of our most common daily activities, sitting. Linked to a thinning in the medial temporal lobe, researchers from UCLA have linked your daily Netflix binge to dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
From working at a computer all day to binge watching Netflix, it's not out of the ordinary to spend most of your time sitting down. But researchers from UCLA urge you to get out of your seat. In fact, they caution too much sitting down could lead to thinning of the medial temporal lobe, the part of your brain essential to memory function. 74-year-old Hazel Richards says, although she's retired, she's able to find ways to get off the couch.
Leg and arm stretches. I also tried to walk a little.
The research at UCLA's Simmel Institute featured in the PLOS ONE journal included interviews and tests like high-resolution MRIs on cognitively healthy patients ranging from ages 45 to 75. They found that sedentary behavior was associated with less thickness in the medial temporal lobe. The average time spent sitting down from participants was 7.2 hours per day. And with each hour reported sitting, researchers found a decrease in brain thickness. According to the study, a 25% reduction in sedentary behavior could potentially prevent more than 1 million Alzheimer's disease cases globally. The researchers warn, although their findings are novel and require further exploration, they are clinically relevant and suggest that physical activity is a promising intervention for delaying the onset of conditions like dementia and Alzheimer's disease. From California, Olivia Leveda, The Underreported.
Greenhouse gas emissions caused by electricity have lowered within the last year. But can the same be said about the emissions in the transportation sector? Cameron Kaufman of Yale University in Connecticut explains the situation with transportation emissions and the efforts made to improve the current situation.
The greenhouse gas emissions generated from your car could be having just as much of an effect on the ozone layer as the emissions generated from the power created in your home. The Environmental Protection Agency creating its greenhouse gas inventory, an annual report that it releases which tracks the total output of greenhouse gases in the United States and the major sources. Historically, the principal source of emission has been electricity, but this year, emissions from electricity and transportation are essentially the same. The EPA attributes this decrease in electricity's emissions output due to the fact that there has been a shift from higher carbon fuel such as coal to lower carbon fuel such as natural gas. Now, this has led to actually a decrease across the board of 2.5% year over year. And similarly, in other categories, this decrease is coming from a repudiation of coal, an embrace of natural gas, and actually a resurgence of petroleum usage. Now, while people have been very happy about seeing this decrease coming in electricity and in the total output, there are fears because there's been an increase in the emissions coming from transportation. People are saying that with transportation, even though most politicians in major cities are working to fix this by aiming to shift the public transportation infrastructure network from being petroleum powered to electricity powered, these effects have been negligible so far, and the shift has not been implemented just yet. Coming to you here from New Haven, Connecticut, I'm Cameron Kaufman, the Underreported.
Behind only California, Illinois is the next pioneer in the area of LGBTQ history education. The state's Senate Education Committee has endorsed a bill with an 8-2 vote for the inclusion of teaching the role and contributions of the LGBTQ community. More with Katie Filling from State College, Pennsylvania.
Senators of Illinois have advanced a plan that would require public schools to include LGBTQ history. According to an April 12, 2018 article from NBC News, the Senate Education Committee endorsed the plan with an 8-2 vote. The House committee also approved a nearly identical version of the plan last week. If this goes through, Illinois will be the second state to include LGBTQ curriculum. The first was California. It requires elementary and high schools to include a unit on, quote, the role and contributions of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in the history of this country and this state. Senator Heather Steens is the one sponsoring the plan, and she says people need to see their history to understand that they are a part of our society. Reporting in State College, Pennsylvania, I'm Katie Filling for the Underreported.
We now end by looking back and then looking forward. This week in history in 1945, then-President Harry Truman learned the details surrounding the infamous Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was a top-secret development of atomic bombs in New Mexico during World War II. In fact, the project was so secret that when it began with President Roosevelt, he did not even inform his then Vice President Truman or the United States Senate. When Truman was given all of the details, he agreed to let the project continue. Truman later, of course, used these nuclear bombs at Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And expected this week, efforts to privatize air traffic control will come to an end after a vote in the U.S. House. Embattled House Transportation Committee Chairman Bill Shuster, who is scandal-plagued after having an affair with an aviation lobbyist, authored the privatization provision and remains a staunch advocate, but his efforts to privatize appear to be for naught. The privatization provision was removed from this year's FAA reauthorization bill after rural lawmakers objected, particularly citing changes to essential air service programs. The current version of the bill, which provides funding for infrastructure jobs and aviation programs, does not include privatization and makes any follow-up effort unlikely until at least 2023. And that's the Underreported for this week. If you have stories that you believe are underreported, please comment below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. For the Underreported, I'm Martin Rather. Have a great week.